Aloha and good afternoon. My name is Juergen Steinmetz, joining you from livestream.travel and eTurbo News in Honolulu. And with me, as always, is Dr. Peter Tarlow in College Station, Texas. You see a different scenery here, so we don't really have to give you the weather report because you can see the weather. I'm outside at the Ala Moana shopping mall here in Honolulu, a busy mall today. And you see it's a beautiful sunny day. How are things in Texas, Peter?
Well, it was a beautiful sunny day, but a thunderstorm will be here in the next about 3 minutes. So you can hear the thunder outside. But that's very typical of the summer here because, you know, it's very hot. It's 98 to 110 degrees. And then it gets so hot that it produces a thunderstorm, which cools things off. So maybe tomorrow I'll do one outside also. But I think it's really interesting that you're outside. I've been looking at the people behind you, and it's kind of interesting. I see most of the people are wearing masks. And today, of course, California took its mask rule off, as did New York. And I wonder how long people in Hawaii will be wearing masks or not wearing masks.
And there's people really are used to masks, but most people you see here are probably tourists. Masks are mandatory when you go inside a shop. And since this is the shopping center and people go in and out the shop, it probably wouldn't make sense to take the mask off every time you leave the shop. So, you know? But on the street, we see more. The only worrisome thing here in Hawaii is our vaccination number is up. We're targeting 70%, what is great. But we have the D version of the virus here. What is, I understand, quite dangerous. This is the Indian virus, what is even worse than the British virus. And those that are not vaccinated and those tourists that are coming here are not vaccinated, definitely are maybe up to some challenges. So, you know, I don't think the mask is such a big deal. I wouldn't mind, you know, keep the mask on for a little bit more. But I guess, you know, we all also want to get rid of requirements like this. So it's a give and take, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that England has extended its lockdown for another month. And I actually think the logical thing to do is to get people outside and get them out of the house and get them into the sun. I think where you are makes the most amount of sense because the more vitamin D you get and the more sunshine you get, the more you're going to be able to have the resistance to the coronavirus. So putting people in a house makes no sense. But I guess governments do what governments do. I think it's interesting you were telling me about the fact that you're kind of going from one coffee shop to another. And I know you're a big coffee fan. And of course, coffee has become a real interesting tourism commodity around the world. The Colombians started that with the whole Juan Valdez, you know, who doesn't really exist. He's kind of like Kentucky Fried Chicken, Colonel Sanders, you know, or Betty Crocker. But they created this whole image of Juan Valdez. And now we're seeing really the beginnings of coffee visitations to plantations around the world in places like Brazil, Africa, in Jamaica, as doing its having agricultural tourism is starting to really boom again. And so that's an important issue. And I think people are looking, once upon a time, coffee was just coffee. But now the world has gotten sort of sophisticated. Maybe Starbucks did that at some level. And people are now looking at different forms of coffee and what types of coffee fit their lifestyle and who they are. So I think it's interesting that in your shopping center, you're seeing more than one coffee house.
Oh, we have a lot of coffee places here. Besides, I think 3 or 4 Starbucks, we have Honolulu Coffee with 2 places. We have Ili, I believe it's called, opening one. We have another very crowded coffee place with really nice seating. I forgot the name. There's a coffee place at Nordstrom. And so coffee places everywhere. People love coffee, apparently. And yes, I think both of us still remember when there was only coffee. You know, not only frappuccinos and lattes and all of these things. We got used over a few years.
Yes. So it's for everyone's information. This last week, Texas College Station launched its original Aggie coffee. So next time I see you in person, I'm going to bring you a bag of coffee from College Station. And it's not cheap. It's a fairly expensive bag, but people are buying it. I think it was started by 2 immigrants from Nicaragua. And so Aggie coffee has become a phenomena here. And I don't know what it tastes like. I haven't tasted it yet, but I do see it's being sold in the stores.
Yeah, and we have the same here. We have our Kona coffee, we have Kauai coffee, we have
Right.
Waialua coffee. And it is kind of strange. We can get coffee from Ethiopia or from South America cheaper than we can get our own coffee from our own island. So it looks like local products are not necessarily the cheapest product.
No, they're far from it. Exactly. Well, other things that are going on in the world today, of course, we're seeing more and more reopenings. One of the things that really has given me a great amount of pleasure is the first buds, I guess would be the way I say, of tourism conferences and tourism security conferences around the world. And so despite some of the problems that have taken place recently in Colombia, Colombia is going ahead, at least as of today, with their security, police and security conference on creating good tourism security in for northern parts of Latin America, in Barranquilla. And Mexico is getting ready to develop a conference. The same is true of Reno, Nevada. So these will all be in-person conferences, not just Zoom conferences, and that's really good. On the other hand, there are also more Zoom conferences taking place. One of the really interesting types of things that are taking place are what are called master classes, or classes that are developed around celebrities, and people are can join in either on Zoom or actually come in person and speak to famous people who are famous, at least in their own field. They may not be famous in other fields, but in their own field. And those people, and that's a way, maybe because of Zoom, that we're not only separated from each other, maybe, but COVID also brought us together. So we're able to see people that we might never have seen before or interact with on a one-by-one basis. Because of Zoom, we're now able to interact with them on a computerized basis. So
yeah, we basically, even if you look at our own organization, World Tourism Network, with more than 200 Zoom events we had last year, we made a lot of friends, people we never knew before, and they're now familiar. We never ever met them in person, but we know how they look like, how they talk. It's a different world. We don't know how they smell, you know. That's what
Saturday, I'm going to be doing very early in the morning in Texas time. It'll be 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Switzerland time. But there's a major meeting of French-speaking academics from around Europe and Africa. And they've asked me to speak on the World Tourism Network and explain to the French-speaking populations, both in Africa and in Europe, how the World Tourism Network will be is a valuable tool to helping them get reestablished. So I'm really excited about this, because I think up till now, the WTN has basically been Anglo-oriented or English-speaking oriented. And we've tried to add a little bit of Spanish, but this is our first real foray into the French-speaking world. And the fact that they came to me, I didn't come to them, they came to me and said, please tell us about the World Tourism Network and how it can help French-speaking countries. That's really spectacular. And I'll give you a full report next week after I've done the conference.
Yeah, hopefully you come back with thousands of new members.
Yes.
That would be nice. And once it's justified, what about a French or a Spanish website? Not a problem. You know, we can easily add this.
Right. Well, as it is, when we read some of the articles, they can be switched. If you go to the on top to where the flag is of the various countries, you can get them in French and Hebrew, German, Arabic. You know, I think there must be like 80 different languages that you can get them in. Of course, I can't read all the translations. I assume that they're pretty good, but at least you get the gist of what the article's saying if you don't.
And Peter, and that's what you mean here for our eTurbo News, because all our articles are translated in 70 some languages. And it's not really a person who translates, it's a computer,
Right.
but it's quite sophisticated. It's better than Google Translate. Maybe, of course, not as good as hiring a professional native speaking translator, but it makes sense. I know you've checked it out in Spanish and
Right.
Portuguese and Hebrew, the languages you speak. I checked it out in German. We had Taleb checking it out in Arabic, and at least it's understandable. What's a good thing?
Exactly. It may not be, super smooth, but the purpose of the article is to get information, and you can certainly get the gist of what that article is saying. So it may not be as literary as when you and I speak in English, but it's there. It's giving you the information, and that's really the essence of what you want to do. So I think that's really part of how the World Tourism Network is helping to really create a unity of tourism countries and tourism ideals and tourism travel around the world. And that's really exciting. We're really probably doing more for peace than the United Nations is.
I know, absolutely. And we're, with our various interest groups, we really cover a wide spectrum of different interests. Like just earlier today, we had a very good panel discussion with Professor Lippmann and Vijay from our aviation system. We had two guests, senior members of the aviation industry, exchanging ideas. And the outcome of the conference is that we're helping to develop a white paper, what would be presented at international UN agencies. So we're trying. I mean, obviously, we're not yet on the same level as UNWTO and WTTC, but I think, but we're fastly approaching.
Yes, we are. And I think the people, especially because we represent the great majority of tourism businesses, the small and medium-sized business, that's really important because those people have never had a voice before. And this is now a chance for them to have a voice within the totality of the travel and tourism industry. So that's really a good thing that we're starting to see. Well, I can hear the thunder rolling in here, which means that I'm a little jealous of you sitting outside in Hawaii, but it's also 8:30 at night in Texas. And the sun is going to be setting in just a few moments but we'll have a nice lightning show. So that'll add a little bit of fun to it. And by tomorrow, it'll be clear and I'll go walking at 5 a.m. in the morning and it'll be 80 degrees.
So Peter, it's a pleasure. We're going to catch up again tomorrow,
yes, right,
and see what's new in the world. And hopefully things are getting better. It's definitely, right now we're going, at least in the United States, through a period of hope and optimism. What is very good. So let's see.
Okay. What you need to do next time is have a cup of coffee with you. So that
absolutely.
All right.
We can have this all together now.
Why don't you go get a cup of coffee and we'll all enjoy it through you.
All right, Peter.
Bye-bye.
All right, everyone else, you can watch archives of these sessions at livestream.travel. They go all the way back for more than a year. So if you ever want to go back to an older session, just go to livestream.travel. And of course, to stay up to date on our news, go to eturbonews.com. And on the top, you find a subscribe button for our YouTube channel. I recommend everyone to click on subscribe. There's no cost, but you'll be notified when there are new YouTube sessions like this. So you will never miss seeing us and some of our other panel discussions we have ongoing.
So tell me, why do you have your hand in the middle of the screen?
No, I'm holding my phone, and I'm getting quite tired because I have to hold it up for so long.
I see. Because all of a sudden you put your hand, it was like this, so that.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
I thought maybe that was a special Hawaiian aloha.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Thank you.